Have you ever thought about the journey that food takes in order to make it to your table each day? My name is Sydney Kuhn, and for my capstone project this year, I'm going to be creating the Farm to Table project, a project that both teachers or educators can use as well as students can implement to create their own community garden. In this presentation, I'm going to discuss a few things about my project. First and foremost, I'm going to highlight the need that I feel that this project has. I'm going to discuss a little more about the intended audience, as well as the project design, tech integration that I used throughout the course of this project, as well as the activities and the assessments across the phases I've developed. One of the big needs that I felt when I thought about this project was do students actually know how food fuels their bodies, and perhaps why we need particular nutrients in our day-to-day diets. And actually some of the research that I found here is that between Miller, Lee, and Burrell is that having a school garden can actually increase knowledge about our food systems, the science and nutrition knowledge. It's actually found that more students on average were actually more excited and motivated to participate in hands-on activities when they had the opportunity. We found too, through some of the research that I was doing, that attitudes in students and the sense of pride actually were very up and very positive. Gardening and growing experiences actually can encourage and persuade families to do the same at home, so that's really great to promote healthy eating habits. The positive side effects of consuming recommended amounts of fruits and vegetables have a lot of health benefits as well. Another need or another kind of question that I posed myself at the beginning of this development of my project was, why would it be beneficial for students to grow their own food? And maybe how could this learning experience really benefit my participants? So I know that from my personal background as a fourth grade teacher, I know that many of my own students in my school district know very little about the foods that they consume each day. And actually a recent study administered by the UC Cooperative Extension showed that a Healthy Living Ambassador program actually increased children's interest in science and gardening. So we really want to increase that self-efficacy and promote healthy behaviors. My intended audience is within my own personal realm, and I currently teach fourth grade, so I felt that this project would be really appropriate for grades 4 and 5. So I'm really looking at intermediate grade levels, although I feel that after doing my research here and adding portions of this project to both my Google Classroom and Google Site, that this project really can be manipulated with all sorts of grade levels. So if you're intending on this project or want to sort of collaborate with a younger grade level, you certainly could do so, as well as bring this up to the high school level. Students in this age level, though, or this grade level, my participants for this intended audience for this project, I wanted them to be able to use appropriate technology, and I feel that students in both 4th and 5th grade, at least in my district, are very fluent in Google Classroom, which kind of serves as a hub for student assignments in my project. Also, in order to be able to create and kind of design their own garden, as well as owning the distribution process, as well as like doing the heavy lifting, creating the materials, designing the garden, and maintaining it, it takes, students of a bit of an older age to do that. So I feel that all of my activities here are challenging yet appropriate for my grade level. When considering my project design, I really wanted to look at backwards design. So it was important to me that I had an end goal at mind and really thinking about my objectives and what I wanted to accomplish by the end, and then work backwards from there. So I really was able to create some assessments or my end goals and then design the activities and specify them around what I wanted. And student learning and understanding can be gauged more accurately through a backward design approach because it's able to leverage those students and what we need to know and help them understand in order to move on to each phase. So that's another reason why I did split each of my pieces of my project into a phase. So you can see here in this little clip here, we identify the results, and then we talk about the evidence, and then we plan those learning experiences around what our desired results are. Another aspect of project design that came to mind when I was developing this project were the incorporation of 21st century skills. So that was something that was really important to me, not only because I was using technology, because I'm working with younger students, but I want them to be able to have those skills in order to be competent learning individuals as they move into the middle and high school. So there were 3 21st century skills that I wanted to focus on: creativity, collaboration, and communication. So We see a lot of these within our learning experiences today, but specifically because this was a hands-on learning project and more of a project-based learning experience, I wanted students to be able to have opportunities to create and design. Garden design is really, in this project, left up to the students, and they're really the ones that are providing the rationale to what they grow and how they grow it, and really reflecting on what is happening as they're growing it. I also included collaboration because students not only are collaborating with me, they're collaborating in their groups, but they're also, collaborating with other students as they're, that may not be in their group as they're working on each phase of the project. They'll be able to provide opportunity for reflection and feedback when they complete flip videos that I'll discuss soon, as they're all working towards the same goal. And then lastly, for my 21st century skills, I included communication because obviously that's so important, especially as we filter some of this material virtually or online in our online environments. Again, I've mentioned Flip before, but the student reflection process in this project is going to be really important, as they not only are communicating with me, and then they're communicating with each other and kind of themselves through self-reflection videos at each phase. I have a lot of tools that I kept in mind as far as technology integration, but all of these images here are labels or some symbols of some of the technology components that I was able to use. So I used a lot of Google just because that's what my students are per se fluent in. So I used Google Forms. I'm teaching them how to use Google Sheets, Google Slides. Google Sites is where I posted a lot of my educator content, as well as Google Jamboard and Classroom, which is my hub for my student materials. I also used Epic for finding informational text that apply to my nutrition component of my project, as well as Minecraft Editor to give students kind of a fun way to build and create on an online environment. And I also used Flip, which is formerly known as Flipgrid, for my student reflection piece. As far as my project sequencing, I felt that it was most appropriate to split my project up into 4 pieces, 4 phases. So again, just like my backwards design, these kind of build on one another in order to reach our end goal. In phase 1, students are really just learning about nutrition as they're reading informational text. They're kind of developing or building upon that background knowledge they may or may not already have, and they're creating a note catcher. They're really kind of providing a rationale for themselves to determine what foods might I want to grow, what foods would be good for me to grow, not only in our environment, but also good for my body to grow, and they'll be reflecting on that phase. In phase 2, students are going to be practicing calculating area, perimeter, as well as measuring length using a ruler. Students will actually be able to design and build a garden virtually using Minecraft, so they'll be able to be a little creative and fun with that. And then they'll also be able to take some of those ideas and be able to build that garden in real time. So with this project, although I wasn't able to start it currently, this is a project that I'm looking to implement into my district within the following year. Construction sort of put us a little behind, but I have created a Google Sites for more professional development type, or if teachers are looking to replicate this project, but I do have a Google Classroom that is all set up and ready to go when I'm ready to enact this project. But the hope here is to actually bring a garden to life, grow physical things, and actually reap the benefits of that. In phase 3, after your per se garden was constructed, students are actually going to watch the growing process commence. And of course, phase 3 can stretch a little bit with time depending on what students have grown, our environment, our conditions, right? So they'll be able to record observations and provide quite a few reflection videos over the periods of those growths. So my hope is, while showing them how to use Google Sheets by the end of phase 3, not only they'll be able to create a reflection video, but also they'll be able to use their data and create some sort of chart or graph that is representative of their data. And lastly, in phase 4, when food is actually ready to harvest, when it is that time, students will be able to reflect on their work yet again. We're seeing this continuation of the reflection process. Students are also going to be able to use Google Slides to create a cookbook to actually share with the community. So I think that's really powerful, not only including the food that they had grown in a recipe, but being able to share that with the community members and promote that healthy eating or those healthy habits is really important. So again, just a quick overview. In phase 1, I called it nutrition. They'll be doing a little nutrition check-in and really just kind of developing the background knowledge that they're going to need to give them that rationale to make a decision on what they'd like to grow. I also am using Google Jamboard there to kind of post and use a collaborative board to make our decisions. Moving on to phase 2, this is where we'll be able to design and build. They'll be able to play some different interactive games as well as experience kind of building and being motivated a little with some Minecraft experience as they kind of construct a garden virtually before we kind of decide as a group how we want our garden to look. So again, we're continuing that reflection process as we move across these platforms. Another quick overview of phase 3 and what that might look like with data collection. Students are really just recording their observation and data in Google Sheets over that lengthy period of time. They'll be able to not only create their own Google Sheets, but then obviously update it daily. We're kind of following that gradual release of responsibility where, I'm giving them some of the tools to start with, and then I'm kind of backing off as the phases continue and as the protocols continue. So it's expected by the end of this that students would be able to go to the garden, measure, accomplish their tasks, record their observations and data, and then move on and do the same repetitively day after day. Just before harvesting, again, students are going to work with me or, with their teams to construct a graph or a chart of their choosing to kind of represent their data. So again, we're using a lot of those cross-cutting subjects. We're really practicing those interdisciplinary kind of that learning experience there. And lastly, our final overview of the phases is the reflection in the community cookbook. So in the phase, students are harvesting what they've grown and will deliver food to the destination. Now, that's really up to the teacher and what the students decide. My intention when I go to implement it is to kind of bring it back to my district and to infiltrate the food that we've grown into our school breakfast and lunches. It's definitely up to, again, the school district or the group that you're working with, but you could definitely donate things to a food pantry or some other organization or even other community members in need if you wish. And then I have a screen capture here from my desktop that kind of shows you what our community cookbook slide deck looks like. So whether students want to use a family recipe, which would be really interesting if you have all family recipes pooled into the cookbook, or a recipe that a student finds online, they can add these recipes and they'll have a book of healthy, great recipes using the materials that they've grown themselves that they can then use at home. And then this cookbook can be shared on, per se, a school website or with other community members. As far as assessment, I used a lot of various pieces of moving pieces of assessment. Not only do I have teacher observation throughout the entire project, but I also have various Google Form exit tickets, whether it's a check-in, whether it's assessing their knowledge of measuring items or area and perimeter, or at the end of the note catcher for my nutrition check-in. They're all just quick checks that can immediately tell me if students have got it and they're ready to move on, or hey, maybe they need a little more help. I also have Flipgrid reflection videos. I think working with intermediate elementary students now, I see the power in reflection and that positive peer feedback loop, and I think that students can take a lot from it, so I think that that is also a really powerful piece. We also, by the end of this project, will kind of have an archive of all student reflections, and they'll able to kind of highlight what went well and what went not so well, right? There's a really, really big, powerful piece there with that reflection piece. And then lastly, we also have the community cookbook entries. I'm teaching students how to, not only through 4th and 5th grade, how to, write fractions, work with fractions, but understand a recipe, understand how to read a recipe. We're really tying in those literary components through reading recipes as well as informational texts. So I'd like to thank you for listening to my presentation. If you are interested in really learning more or have any questions at all about my work, feel free to email me at the email that I've listed here below. But you can also find additional information regarding all the activities and my assessments on my Google site. And if you click on this PowerPoint here, I do have both of these linked here. And every material, anything will be posted on the Google site because that's kind of more geared towards educators looking to replicate this project at their own building. But I will also link below my Google Classroom so you can see what it would look like from a student's point of view. Lastly here, I just have some references in case you're interested in learning more about Farm to Table. Thank you.